Hello and welcome to Thrive in 5. Imagine you owned a business, say a grocery store, and there was a rule that 1 out of every 7 years you couldn't sell anything. As a matter of fact, you couldn't even lock your door. You had to let anybody walk in and take whatever they wanted off the shelves. Sounds pretty difficult? Well, according to this week's Torah reading, that's exactly what every Jewish farmer had to do living on the land of Israel. They had to keep the Shemitah, the sabbatical, which means every 7 years they had to let their land lie fallow and let anybody walk on and take whatever they wanted. And this might seem like something that only the highest level Jews would have to do, but every single Jew had to keep the Shemitah. As a matter of fact, we're told that the Jews were ultimately exiled. They lost the gift of their land precisely because they failed to keep the Shemitah properly. Now, the word Shemitah comes from the word shmot, which means to drop or to let go. It's clearly intended to teach us how to drop our sense of ownership, to remind us that the land was ultimately a gift and not ours to do whatever we feel like. But the real question is, why does the Torah go to such lengths to drill this lesson home to us? Does God have a big ego? He wants to be appreciated more? So I think the lesson of the Torah is a very profound one. More important than what we have is how we relate to it, how we think about it. As a matter of fact, better we shouldn't have it than relate to it in an unhealthy and damaging way. And what the Torah is telling us, I think, is that when we forget the ultimate power that is the source of our wealth and prosperity, it won't be long before we make the mistake of thinking that our wealth and prosperity is the source of our power. It's so easy to come to believe that what we own is what makes us feel happy, secure, worthwhile. And yet I don't think I have to elaborate on how much damage and evil has been done in the world precisely because people believe that wealth and property is what brings happiness and security and value. And this might seem like an obvious lesson, but let's be honest. How many of us worry just a little bit too much about our money? And how many of us have fallen into the same trap over and over again of believing that that next outfit, the next gadget is what's going to make us happy? And how many of us have had a tough time maintaining that delicate work-life balance because we work too hard? It is important, vitally important, that we keep what we own in proper perspective, that we relate to it in a healthy way. It cannot make us feel happy. It cannot make us feel secure. As a matter of fact, our Mishnah, our oral tradition, teaches us that our wealth can't even make us feel wealthy. That's right. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, asks a question. Who is wealthy? Now, if you went on the streets of Seattle, you'd get Bill Gates, Paul Allen. But the Mishnah answers with two profound words in Hebrew, Hasomeach bechelko, one who takes pleasure in what they own. And if you think about what that means, it's saying something very profound, that our experience of wealth has absolutely nothing to do with what we do or do not have. I taught this Mishnah in Microsoft to a group, and one of my students' face lit up, and I asked him what's going on. He says, I never understood this until you taught me this lesson. I said, what? He said, I work in the educational side of Microsoft, and we work in a lot of underdeveloped countries, and I spent time in villages in Africa, and I was in a village where, forget about not having a roof over their heads or cars or shoes, they didn't even have clothing, and yet they were the happiest people I ever met. More important than what we have is that we relate to it in a healthy way. And the key to relating to our stuff in a healthy way is by understanding that it can't deliver those emotions of happiness and security. I was talking about this to a friend of mine, and she said, when she was younger, her family won in a settlement more than $2 million, a mind-boggling amount of, stuff, I think by most people's standards. And far from it being a period of happiness and security, it was the most unhappy and the most insecure period of her life because of the way her family related to the money. There is nothing wrong with having lots of possessions. As a matter of fact, we should have lots of stuff because there's a lot of good and meaningful stuff that we can do with our stuff, but it is essential that we relate to our stuff in a healthy way. And the key to relating to our stuff in a healthy way is to remember that it can't give us the happiness and security that we seek. And I think if we keep that perspective, we will have the very best chance of not only enjoying what we have, but of using it in a way that makes us and the world a better place to be.